There's. I was gonna say my screen says offline, but it just changed to live, so I can see it now.
Yeah, you're live.
Cool.
And gosh, my lighting is terrible. I got get rid of that silly fluorescent thing up there.
Yeah, I saw your note on what was it, G Plus, but you were going to change your podcasting abode, as it were.
Well, the pod cave, yeah, it's
Pod cave, that was a term.
yeah, I made a number of improvements, but the lighting is still, well, I don't really, the video has never been a priority for me. I usually delete the old videos because I don't want people to, well, I mean, if I'm having a bad beard day, I don't.
You need mood lighting, though. You need a couple of candles and a lava lamp, and
I get a green screen and put something interesting behind myself.
Buck Field uses a green screen for his Starship vlog, I think.
Yeah, I just no, I just can't. No, I can't. I won't. I'm an audio guy only. The videos are just a convenience for getting everything recorded.
But YouTube has pulled ahead of so many other forms of social media in terms of distributing ideas. Oh, here, Patrick has just joined.
Hello, Patrick.
Hi, Patrick.
Here he is. I just got the notification that you started, and I almost forgot about it. I was watching the U.S. Chess kids get their asses kicked by the world. It was the what do you call it, the millennials.
But how do they do in chess?
It was a disaster. The world team versus the U.S. team, and these are a bunch of kids. There's the under 14 set. There's the 7. I forget how that works. And the score is currently 12.5 to 23.5. The world team is the 23.5. That's terrible. I really like some of these kids too. I like them all. But I had on the girls' side, I really had hopes for Carissa Yip, but she didn't do so well.
Oh, man.
They weren't playing their best.
What's the weakness?
What do you mean?
Well, you said the U.S. team was really suffering at the hands of these other teams. What are the other teams excelling at that the U.S. team is not excelling at?
Well, they're just not playing very well today. Or for the last few days, actually, they're not. According to Alejandro Ramirez, he says that he watched some of these kids play, and they're just not playing as well today as they were like when they played him and stuff. He watched them play.
Dean Callahan just joined.
Oh, hello. Hey,
Dean.
Hey, Paul. How's it going?
Good.
And others.
We're coming out. Oh yeah, we got Dean, Mike, Nick, and Patrick so far. Okay. And I've sent the invitation's gone out to the whole world, so we could get an extra Jehovah's Witness or whatever.
Well, good for them if they're ex.
Well, I mean that's what we had last time.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't really follow up on it. But,
he checked in for about 5 minutes, then couldn't handle the rapid tangents we run off on every. 5 minutes is about the half-life of any topic.
Yeah. Tangents are what this is all about, right?
Yeah, it's all about the tangents are more important than there is no main topic. So.
Right, there's no theme.
and there's no show notes, no agenda, and basically it's basically not a podcast.
Right, it's not.
It's a hangout.
It's a hangout.
Yeah.
And I'm not drinking alcohol today.
I'm drinking alcohol today.
I drank too much last night.
Cheers.
I drank too much last night, and I'm drinking today also.
Well, I saw an article today that if you drink 3 or 4 times a week, your chances of diabetes are reduced.
I specifically drink 3 or 4 times a week, not for diabetes, but I'll add that to my checklist.
I've already drank 3 or 4 times this week.
A lot of the studies showing the benefits of alcohol have been quietly funded by the alcohol industry.
Shut up! I'm a shill for
That's
the
right.
alcohol.
Yeah, I smoke tobacco 3 or 4 times a week too. Actually, I don't. But
Well, I mean, but Nick, I can understand any study that shows that red wine is good for you is I accept without question.
there are some forms of confirmation bias that I find psychologically appealing.
Red wine, dark chocolate, and coffee are all those studies are fine.
See, I'm waiting. So I'm waiting for the the slightly overweight men who drink too much and like smoke pot. Are the first, or somehow that sets them up.
Imagery 200, all of them.
Right, yes, exactly. The immortality treatment for some reason works best for them at first, so they end up running the world.
Well, unfortunately,
I think it's actually more the Keith Richards diet.
I don't pass the first test. So I'm not overweight. I'm not overweight, not even slightly.
Are you also going to shill for the health benefits of eating whole garlic? Or has that not come up to the level of red wine?
Cold garlic? Well,
Oh yeah, well,
garlic certainly, but
oh yeah, absolutely.
garlic is almost right up there with coffee on my list of things that need to be proven to be healthy.
Unless you're a vampire.
Yeah. I think I'm already pretty good on salmon.
Actually, vampires who drink 4 times a week can eat garlic.
Okay. That sounds like a new plot for the next Wes Craven film, except I believe he passed away recently, didn't he?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Did you know that Wes Craven?
I lost it.
Did you know that Wes Craven was a professor of philosophy before he made slasher flicks?
I did not.
That certainly makes sense, but no, I didn't know that.
I did not either.
So in other words, he decided to make a living.
Yes, a good living.
And we lost another horror great with Cesar Romero and the Night of the Living Dead guy.
Yes, I just saw that. Yeah,
he just passed away. I was not so much of an appreciator of his films. I thought they were a bit slow paced, but I know many people in the zombie genre just love that stuff.
I have not watched any zombie.
You haven't even watched the classic Night of the Living Dead?
Not even that. I'm not trying to avoid it. I just never. Right. Never presented itself, and it doesn't attract me, so I didn't seek it out.
But sometimes when I hear about a movie repeatedly, eventually I'll try to get it like through interlibrary loan just so I can see it, so I'll know what people are talking about.
Yeah, I had that. I tried that once with Plan 9 from Outer Space, and I got through about 10 minutes of it.
Legendary bad film. I wouldn't surprised it didn't make it through.
It was, yeah. I thought, okay, this is very bad. Oh, it's even worse than that. Okay, no, it can't get any worse. No, it's going to get better. No, it got worse. All right.
But have you seen the film about Ed Wood who made the film?
I was just going to say, didn't even make an even worse one.
No. There is a film, a biopic
about Ed Wood, and that received
Johnny Depp in it. Yeah, and I haven't seen that one either. No.
Yeah, that received an award. I can't remember. I don't know if it was an Academy Award or some, the more marginal one, but it got an award. Some people in the film industry love it because there's so many internal references to it. In it, I should say. It's a filmy sort of thing.
Yeah, when I lived in Los Angeles many years ago, there was actually an Ed Wood film festival where they had all his really bad movies. He did several movies, many of which were borderline X-rated, and he even before that, he didn't have an X rating when he made most of them, but he was there was something about the film people that like that, maybe because that makes them feel good about their own work. I don't know. But
no, anytime I get an inside joke, I feel like a member, so I feel like I belong.
Yeah,
that's right.
Other people are not quite as good as I am.
It's about social validation, partially.
But I think that drew more people than the brand new print of Citizen Kane that came out about the same time, which is truly a technically brilliant film. And I think maybe people shy away from that one.
I have seen Citizen Kane once.
Yeah, I've seen it once.
It's incredibly well done, and even if you don't particularly enjoy the subject matter, I think you got to admire the filmmaking technique. It's kind
Indeed.
of, yeah.
Well, I think I'm not knowledgeable enough on filmmaking techniques to appreciate it too much. I mean, I remember enjoying watching it, and of course now I know what Rosebud is all about.
Yeah.
I won't spoil it for the rest of you.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, he got that ruined his career, but because Hearst decided to destroy him after that. But,
Oh well, if I was Hearst, wouldn't I try to destroy him after that?
well, Hearst destroying people was sort of a routine thing for him.
Well, you got to get good at it, so you have to practice.
So
back in the good old days when the legacy press could destroy people and there was no way to respond because there was no internet.
well, they would say things like, well, yeah, he's a genius, but he's nobody enjoys his films, and things like that. And it was subtle but very effective. And so Wells spent the last probably 20 years of his life not making movies because he really couldn't get anybody.
He got a lot of money from pushing wine or something.
Paul Masson.
Paul Masson, yes.
Which is an absolutely horrible wine, by the way.
I've never tried it.
It's dreadful mass market stuff, but he didn't care. He was just like, we shall sell no wine before it's time, and where's my check?
Right.
He had bills to pay.
Yes, he did. He had a lavish lifestyle.
Hey, I would if someone wanted to pay me big bucks to sell wine, I would do that. I would lie. I would lie about wine for money.
You would show for the wine industry.
I would.
CIA.
I don't even drink wine.
Oh, well, see.
I drink. I have a friend who's a wine snob, and if he says, "Dean, you have to try this wine," I will try his wine because it probably costs $100 a bottle, and he's probably right how good it is. And it is. It's always good. But other wine, to me,
I've had a problem, son, and I have to admit I bought it because of that commercial.
It's awful.
It's not bad.
Well, technically,
it's like wino. I've seen winos drinking it, which that pretty much tells you everything you need to know.
So is it better or worse than Annie Greenspring?
I haven't even tried that. I mean, when I lived in California, there were a lot of wine commercials. You don't see them here in Maryland.
You're right. You don't really. No, I've had Bordy wine. I've tried that. That's pretty vile, I find.
Yeah, there are some good Maryland wines, respectable but not great.
I drink the Carlo Rossi's.
You can sign off now, Patrick.
My wife loves Vino Verde.
The Carlo Rossi's are cheap, and they're good.
If you want cheap and good, go for Chilean or Argentinian.
I'm talking 5 liter. 5 liters is like $20.
That's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
4 liter bottle, the one that I like, the Paisano, is like $14.
Okay.
That's a gallon of wine for $14.
Yeah, the price
$14
per gallon is the key thing.
I like my Dale's Pale Ale.
That's pretty good. I admire that one.
Well, as the beer, I drink Dos Equis.
I drink Dos Equis on tap in Mexican restaurants. It's always jolly.
The name always kills me because it sounds so
well
in Spanish.
It's
2 X's.
When you go to Mexico and have real Mexican beer, it's much better than the stuff we get here.
Well, probably, yeah.
And Canadian beer. You go to Canada,
they got more alcohol in it.
It's not only more alcohol; it's better tasting.
It's like drinking Guinness on tap.
I get drunk too fast as it is. I go to Canada, I have a couple bottles, I'm done.
Well,
I generally try to go to brew pubs or wherever, like local craft brew is my favorite to try.
Oh yeah, mine too. Near here we have Franklin's in Hyattsville, Maryland, which is excellent. It's kind of like in a little tucked away corner of Prince George's County, but it's really very good.
Oh, I'm writing that down. I like to go. There's two places downtown Baltimore I like to go to. Pratt Street Ale House and Bertha's Mussels. They both serve Oliver. Well, they make the Oliver at Pratt Street.
I also see behind you, Dean. I see the Mike's Hard, whatever that is.
Yeah, that's just a box that came from the liquor store. I don't actually.
Okay.
Not my wife doesn't even drink it. That just happens to be a box that. Well, when I bought, my weekly case of beer, or that's what they put it in. So.
Well, hold on a second. You guys talk amongst yourselves. I'm checking something.
I just last week saw a graph of the growth of the number of beer. What do you call a place that makes beer? Brewery. The number of breweries in the United States has just skyrocketed back up. But interestingly, the graph started out like this and hit a low in the like 70s and 80s, and then went way back up again. And there's more breweries now in the United States than ever before.
Yes, the mid '80s, the craft brew thing really started kicking off. The brew pub.
Yeah, it is really big in Oregon.
Well, liquor stores around here carry the microbrewery stuff.
Oh, they do everywhere now.
Now, well, yes, now they do everywhere. It's the thing is, it's not hard to make good beer. It's you master a few techniques and understand the basic biology and biochemistry. You can, and you're willing to buy the right ingredients and treat them right, you can make excellent beer.
Yes, that's true.
Probably most of the places, in my opinion, they cut costs in one or two areas, and that kills them.
Well, they use rice instead of barley.
Well, there's that, and there's they don't do all the rest, or they don't put in, they don't pay attention to the hops or the malt as closely as they should. So you really only need to screw up in two places, and your beer becomes average. If you do everything, then you're a competitor.
Yeah, but there are some that are kind of genius level, like
yes,
Dogfish Head.
They do all the things.
Stone
is fantastic. Really, San Diego, almost all the San Diego breweries, if you ask me, there's something about them. They really, maybe just their location and the competition. God, they are so good.
Yeah, well, I just had a Stone tonight. It was the Stone Ruination. Wonderful.
I believe it.
One of the oldest, most advertised beers is the absolute worst beer now. That's Budweiser. And I used to live when I was a child. On the second floor of the backyard porch, you used to see the Flying Eagle, the big sign, because that's where I lived. I lived
near
right
Newark.
across.
Yeah, near the Newark Airport.
Yeah, I lived in Elizabeth. My backyard. If you stood on the back porch, the main view was that eagle, and I had a little telescope at the time. You could put it in the view and just see the thing. You can see how the bulbs work.
Yeah, Budweiser. Back when I was very young, I drank shitty beer, the cheapest I could buy. And as soon as I got my first real job, I started drinking good beer, and I just couldn't go back. And I'd rather not drink than drink Budweiser.
Yeah, it's terrible now. I call it headache beer.
Yeah.
I always used to get a stomach ache or a headache after I drank that.
Yeah. I don't know about it in the past, but I know now. In fact, Rolling Rock was I had Rolling Rock for a while, but Anheuser-Busch bought them out, and sure enough, within a few months of them buying it out, I stopped drinking Rolling Rock because I started to get headaches on that one. So they must have.
It's all about that wonderful New Jersey water.
I was just going to suggest, maybe they changed their water source.
Well, it's funny. I looked into it one time, and it turns out we have worse water down here where I am now than Newark. Newark actually has some of the cleanest water. I couldn't believe it when I read this, but it's true.
Wait a minute.
Does it come from wells or aquifers or rivers?
Oh,
it probably comes from upstate New York.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Well, here we had a problem. We had CB Geigy nearby.
You know, I used to live in New Jersey, and I absolutely loved the northwest part of the state. Didn't much care for the rest of it, but there's water, there's lakes, there's hills, there's all kinds of things.
So why then in American pop culture is New Jersey basically a running joke? I mean, I'm from the West Coast. I never go to the East Coast. I have no idea, but I know everybody big
Yeah, it's the
jokes
garbage
about New
state.
Jersey.
It's not the garden state. It's the garbage state.
Well,
the southern part is a garden. I mean, the Pine Barrens, the coast. You know,
Right.
yeah,
Pine Barrens.
cranberry bogs. But there's the southwest part of the state, which is basically a Philadelphia suburb, and the northeast.
Yeah, that
part,
kind of sucks.
which a northeast part, which is basically a New York suburb, and includes Newark, which is a school-free drug zone, and
I like that.
But you know, I lived in Princeton, which is like a little paradise, in
Bourgeois
Central Jersey.
theme park.
Right.
Well, no, it's more like, I wouldn't say a theme park, although we're not that far from Six Flags. But I lived there for 9 years. I really loved it. You know, it's basically the pinnacle of the Ivy League there, and you get all that. But
Yeah, well, I'm waiting any moment for my invitation to join the IAS, so I'll look forward to living there sometime.
well, it is a nice little town, although it has, in recent years, since I've been back there, it's maybe gotten a little bit too full of itself. But you know, it's been there for over 300 years. Princeton started as a Presbyterian seminary and branched out, but the guy that they put in charge of it was pretty liberal for a Presbyterian, and he branched out from there.
Right, because the Scots invented Western civilization, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Well, they invented modern civilization.
Well, modern Western, like they.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, David Hume is.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Can't do without him, right?
The Scottish Enlightenment with David Hume and Adam Smith and several others, but those are the two big.
Well, the guy who invented the modern road, Macadam, Scottish, about the same time. Many great architects. You know, it goes on. There's a book about what's the guy's name? Herman wrote the book on that.
Yes, that's why I think that's the book I must have read. How the Scottish invented.
How the Scots invented the modern world by
right. Yes.
By Herman. I can't remember his first name. He teaches at George Mason, I think.
That could be. It is a little bit hyperventilating, but it's a good read. I really enjoyed it.
It is fun. He goes through a lot of different things. You know, James Watt and how they used to all get together in Edinburgh and drink a lot of red wine, not whiskey, red wine, and from France usually, and just talk, right? And not very many of them were on their cell phones at the time, and they would just.
Well, that was the first high point of coffee house culture. I mean, we've achieved another high point now, although franchised by Starbucks. But when it was a really big deal in the late 17th century, early 18th century to go hang out at a coffee house. It was new in itself.
That's my ideal environment. I love hanging out in a coffee shop and drinking coffee. Preferably a brew pub coffee shop,
well, yeah.
With cannabis.
The brew pub around 5 p.m. and then, but what they used to have then is if they would have these big dinner parties in Edinburgh, and usually held by one of the wealthy patrons, and they would bring all the leading whites to their dinner party, and that's how David Hume got so fat. And they would have, they would sit and talk till midnight.
There's an important aspect of the Scottish Enlightenment that is not well known, however, and that is that just before the Scottish Enlightenment, the English university system had passed a law that everybody had to take some kind of an oath to the Anglican Church, specifically Anglican, before they could be a professor. So all the nonconformists, they went north of the border and went to Scotland because you could still be a university professor without swearing your allegiance to the Anglican Church. And so all the interesting people with their own ideas who didn't want to be conformists, they went to Scotland. So, and they gathered in Edinburgh, and that was one of the sources of the Scottish Enlightenment.
Yeah. Well, there was that, and the fact that, you know, although already a lot of really bright people in Edinburgh, which talent attracts talent,
and the talent concentrated there because it was just north of the border where they they got.
Well, yes, like how far south in one of the worst climates can you get, you know, to sort of live in an urban kind of setting?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the winters there aren't horrible any more worse than they are anywhere else in Europe.
Yeah, but the summers are just like the winters anywhere else, though.
Yeah. Well, you get not in July. In August, yeah, it's cold.
Well, see, when did we go there? When we went there in like July or August, it was it's kind of the way that people describe Seattle, but it was actually that way. It's like, oh, there was a sunbreak today amidst the rain and clouds. It must be summer. Granted, that's like a 3-day analysis.
Yeah, well, I've been up to Orkney, which is the island chain north of Scotland.
Ah, yes.
It's beautiful up there, but it's very stark, and it is cold in August.
Did you go to Skara Brae?
Say again?
Did you go to Skara Brae, the Neolithic site there? It's one of the most famous Neolithic.
Oh yeah,
sites.
I went there. Yeah, I'll have to warn you. There's a working, well, when I was there anyway, there was a working farm right there, with livestock, and it stinks like hell. So if you go to Skara Brae, you get a little bit of the prehistoric smell as well.
So, there you go. Yeah, why go to the Viking Museum and smell artificial rotting shit? Just go to Orkney.
The most impressive thing I saw up there was Ring of Brodgar, which is a big stone circle. And the impressive thing about it isn't just its size and the size of the stone, many of which are badly eroded, some of which are missing now, but the fact that the population of the island was probably, at those days, was probably never more than about 2,000 people. So they built, this was what we would consider now a very small town. They built this very impressive stone circle with very big stones, and it's quite geometrically accurate.
Huh.
And actually, it's the second one they built. They built an earlier one called Stenness, which is maybe a mile away from there. You could there are tombs right next to there, so you can tell that the kings, or whoever the big chief was at the time, wanted to have his tomb right there. So they saw the circle as kind of a entryway into the other world.
The other world.
And but it's very impressive. You get there and you realize, wow, we think we invented hard work. Yeah, no, we didn't.
I think I invented sloth, actually.
No, that was a deadly sin before you were born.
Oh, okay, well. Every generation throws its heroes at the pop jar.
Well, every generation thinks they invented sex, thinks they invented music, right?
Yes.
And whatever the other deadly sins are.
Pride, greed, anger, lust, sloth, gluttony. That's 6.
Oh, gluttony, yeah.
No, yeah, well, my generation definitely invented gluttony.
Well, I mean, one could argue that this generation, in fact, did invent gluttony.
Well, we certainly look like we did.
Exactly, yes. I mean, just from appearances. I mean, that'd be a good first approximation.
And it's funny, if you ever watch the film Avanti, which is I think it's a Billy Wilder film from the late 50s, early 60s, and the gal who plays the British character says, "How come all you Americans are always so thin?" And 50 years later, it flipped.
Yeah, we're thin. That's a ticket. Yeah, compared to.
See, well, my answer would be a masochistic exercise and masochistic dietary restrictions. And even now, and even then, I'm still slightly overweight.
Yeah, well, there's some kind of trap we fell into here. I don't know what it is.
It might have something to do with easy availability of calorie-rich resources, and
well,
the trendy term now is calorically dense environments.
But I think that's a necessary but not sufficient condition to explain where we are. Some people think it has to do with our gut bacteria.
Okay, it's much simpler than that. In the long human evolutionary past, sweets and fats were very rare in the environment, and if you saw them, you had to eat as much as you possibly could because you would not see them again soon. And now we have an environment in which sweets and fats are very easy to get, but our evolutionary psychology has not changed, and we still gorge on sweets and fats.
But that was true for our grandfathers, and they weren't as fat as we are.
No, they didn't have sweets available and fats available like we have.
In the second order, it's also, we now have research institutions devoted to figuring out how to trigger like the dopamine feed yourself pleasure response.
that's part of it.
Combined, what's the best configuration?
Oh yeah, the Heath bar. You mean
greasy salt, greasy sweet salt configurations. What is the best configuration? To trigger the dopamine response.
Yeah, it's called.
We are helpless in the face of this.
Yeah, it's called the ho-ho.
The ho-ho,
I was going to say the cheeseburger.
The cheeseburger, no one can eat just one bag of potato chips by design.
I can definitely eat 3 without even stopping.
I would be hard pressed to eat 3, but once I start, my mind drifts onto other subjects, and then the bag is empty.
All too true.
And it feels masochistic to not do that. What? You're not eating a bag of potato chips? That must suck. And of course, I love beer. I drink beer 3 or 4 days out of the week because why? Diabetes. Want to avoid it. Paul's mouth is moving, but I'm not hearing his voice.
Yeah, Paul, your audio stopped.
Yeah, I see his mouth moving too, but no. No, he's telling us keep going, okay. Even though we can't hear him.
Well, we just need to run one of those AI programs that puts words in his mouth, and
and we can make him say anything.
Exactly.
Hideously embarrass himself and lose his good job.
And will be online forever, recorded for posterity.
Internet never forgets.
So they say, but I suspect there's a lot. It doesn't remember either. In fact, I just recently came across an article about how all the earliest digital cameras, all those formats are no longer in use, and there's a whole chunk of images that haven't been saved in any other format that are just basically lost to history. Although there are some specialist archives that are attempting to save this on a different medium, and it's the same thing with a lot of the other early storage technologies that have gone the way of the horse and buggy, as it were.
Well, that's all right. I don't have to worry about that because I never forget anything that I remember.
Indeed. Are you vaping, Patrick?
Yes, I quit smoking, although last week I cheated, but I got some vape now, and I've actually got a little belly because of the quit smoking, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right. My brother's getting a little bit chunky. He quit smoking.
Yeah, this actually really is. When I ran out last week or so, I started I found some cigarettes and I started smoking again. It was terrible. It was like my mouth started to taste like shit again, and I was a nervous wreck for some reason. I finally got some vape now, and everything is good, you know.
Does the vape have nicotine in it to address the craving?
Yes, otherwise it wouldn't have worked.
So you get the nicotine, but you don't get the smoke.
That's
Very
right.
good. Yeah, I've heard that that's quite successful for some people. In fact, I ran across an article in the past couple of weeks about either there were lower cigarette sales due to the success of vaping or something like that.
Yeah, I actually did a video where I recommended it, and I said something to the effect of, if it's something that you're doing to just because you think it's cool, it's not what it's about. But if you are a smoker like me from high school days, and you went to this, that's a good thing.
Now, is that actually made from tobacco?
The nicotine, I'm not sure. No, the vape is actually, well, this is 80-20, vegetable glycerin and what do they call that? Starts with a P. I can't think of the name of it, but it's the same. You know, the fog machines. You know the fog machines. You know
yeah, I know about them. I don't know how they work.
Well, that's what this is.
Okay.
It's exactly what this is. It's just depending on the chemical.
Yeah, the smoke is very dense looking.
Yeah, well, this one is. When I first started with those other shitty things I had, they weren't. This one is. And now I'm breathing it in like this, and you know, I'm toking on it instead of dragging it.
Yeah, I tried smoking some cannabis vape, but it just didn't do it for me. There's like some missing cannabinoid profile, and you know, I just don't think it works for me. Wax, they call it wax.
Well, this, you know, somebody gave me some other stuff that when I put it in there, it was really harsh and terrible. This PG and VG, the PG is, I can't think of the poly something glycerin, and the VG is the vegetable glycerin. I'm using
interesting.
I'm using an 80-20, which is what Cutwood was. I used to get the sugar drizzle from Cutwood, but these damn things are $12 a little bottle. Whereas this thing, which is twice as big, maybe more, 3 times maybe, is $20.
How long have you been doing the vaping?
I don't know. I lost count. It's over a year now, I think. I mean, with this one, it's not.
Has your lung capacity improved with stopping smoking?
Yeah, I immediately noticed the difference. Although, like I said, I cheated last week, but I mean, like even just, you know, because I was smoking since I was in high school, and I used to smoke Winston Red, and then when I was married, I had cut down to the Winston Ultralights, but even like just walking to the store around the corner from me over here, I would be like, you know, I would be breathing heavier just by walking over there and back. Whereas when I first started this, a couple of weeks into it, I walked there and back, and I don't think I was breathing any differently.
Well, that's great.
So, but then again, like I said, I cheated last week, so I don't know where I'm at.
Well,
the occasional lapse is acceptable.
Yeah, the occasional lapse is not a big deal. The important thing is to stop taking the smoke in on a long-term basis. And if you made it for a year, then you've achieved that. Yul Brynner, before he died, said it's never too late to stop smoking. So,
well, I had a brother who says it's easy to quit. I quit hundreds of times. Sorry, Paul. I see your lips moving. Let me put Paul on the screen so I can see what he's trying to do.
Yeah, he's even dropped off and re-logged on, and we still can't hear him.
His pod cave is technically problematic.
Check your microphone plugs.
What?
Have you tried unplugging everything and plugging it back in and turning everything off and turning it back on?
Time for a cold boot. Oh, he's nodding his head. Apparently he can hear us, but we can't hear him.
Well, your audio was a little choppy before, and maybe it just decided to quit altogether.
And he started to echo a little bit too, I noticed. So now he's dropped off again.
No, you got to drop all the way off. It's probably a Google problem.
Time for a cold boot and a return on new terms, as it were.
Actually, the secret is I got him from here. I wanted to shut him up. I got the secret control over here. Just
okay. Now we can say what we really want to say.
I mean, I got the power.
Tell us your real opinions.
My real opinion? Oh, I don't know. I'm just joking. Hey, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say my real opinion isn't worth saying. It's just a list of things I hate. Not really an opinion. It's mostly just knee-jerk reactions.
Not to change the subject completely, but change the subject completely. I hear they're building another foldable telescope, twice as big as the one behind me.
The James bigger than the James Webb.
Yeah, it's about twice the size, I think, and I can't remember the name of it. Starts with an L or an F, and it's supposed to be It's supposed to be placed in orbit in the same place, and I'm wondering how that works.
What are the Lagrange points? You mean?
Yeah, the L2 specifically. It's going to be twice as big as
L2, right? So that's the spaceward side of Earth, right? Like 1,000,000 miles out, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Who's building it?
I imagine NASA's. It's on the drawing board, so to speak. While they're still building the James Webb, they got this other one now.
I did a quick Google search and I don't come up with anything.
Well, they're saying now that we know how to do this, they need a bigger one, and it's going to be less than. It's not going to be the infrared like the James Webb is going to be, but it's going to be able to see more in the visual range, and it's going to be more geared towards looking at exoplanet atmospheres. They needed something.
Something more local. Yes, you don't need IR to because of the.
Yeah, they were looking
at redshift for the local shit.
It's going to be able to go into infrared, I think. There he is. No, I still don't hear you.
Back, but he's still. His lips are moving and no sound is coming out.
I reached through the computer, Paul, and I pulled your microphone cord out. I wanted to tell you that before. It was supposed to be a joke, but
Just start cussing really loud.
It'll come back on all of a sudden.
Then it'll come back on all of a sudden.
Well, the development time of these space-based telescopes has tended to really lengthen out the horizon. And,
I know. The Webb has been so agonizing.
Well, the Hubble was agonizing too. I mean, once they put it up in orbit, then they had found they'd made a mistake, and they still had to change out a bunch of shit to make it work properly.
The thing about the James Webb is that it's not going to be serviceable, so it has to work perfect. Whereas this new one supposedly is going to be serviceable, but still, I mean, they have to get out there in order to service. But it's going to be serviced by robots, I think.
I mean, the lifetime of the Webb isn't as long as you'd think either. It's like. It's a huge project that isn't going to live very long. I mean,
what's the expanded lifespan of the
I can't tell you what it is offhand, but when I was reading about it, I found it somewhat shocking.
Well, there was another infrared telescope. I think it was the Planck telescope. It was put up by the ESA. I'm not sure about that. I have to look it up. That it could only work as long. Oh, there he is.
I'm going to use my crappy built-in microphone.
I told you it was your microphone. I know these things. I'm cool like that.
Right. So if the sound isn't coming through, you think it might be the microphone? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not my microphone. It's something in the chain that failed.
Probably the driver. You have to actually power down.
No, it's not that. Okay. I don't know what. I'll solve it later. Yeah. Oh, by the way, the James Webb Space Telescope, the published lifetime and the actual lifetime they'll get are two different things.
Right. To guarantee, I mean, to be confident in the published lifetime, you have to be.
Well, for example, the Aqua satellite that was launched in 2002, I think it had a 5-year life. It's still there. It's still operating. Terra was launched in 1999, and it's still operating. So there's a lot.
Of course, look at opportunity. Even a thing with moving parts can last.
Yeah, opportunity. They didn't anticipate the cleaning events they were getting.
Yep.
They thought that the dust would just accumulate on the solar panel, and that would be it. And pleasant surprise. The Martian atmosphere cleans it off every few months.
It's always nice when something works longer. So tell us, Paul, what is the name of the new one that they're building? Something like twice as big as the James Webb, another origami.
Well, nothing is being built twice as big as the James Webb.
Well, no, I'm not being built. It's on the drawing board. I just came out of.
Well, it's not funded, so you can't really.
Well, what is it called anyway?
Yeah, what is it called?
There have been lots of different.
What's the working name?
No, it is a working name, and it was either Fraser Cain's or Tony Darnell's podcast that I heard it on. I think it was Fraser Cain's. Anyway,
I can't remember, but I think it changes every few months.
It's either an L or an F. I can't remember the name of it.
But there's whatever you're seeing and is cartoons. It's not engineering.
No. This was a discussion on like just like your Unseen podcast. It was a discussion with a couple of scientists, and they were talking about building this thing. It's on the drawing board in 20 years from now or something like that. And it's specifically going to be designed to look further into at the exoplanets' atmospheres, and it's not going to be in the infrared more like the JWST is. It's going to be more in the visual.
Well, JWST is in the infrared for a very good reason. That is that the ground-based telescopes are handling the visual range just fine. They don't really need the JWST.
They need a large enough telescope to actually pull out an actual image of the exoplanet. In other words, even the James Webb is probably not big enough.
No, James Webb isn't going to really give you that. James Webb will do. James Webb, if it's successful, will do a lot of really important things in astronomy. But it won't,
obviously, yeah, a lot of people.
But it won't. It won't do miracles.
Right. Well, they had a whole graph up where they had a circular pattern where so many light years out. They had the Hubble, then the James Webb Space Telescope, and then this new one. It was supposed to reach out, even further. And possibly even get a slight disc out of.
I would take all of that as just talking points, and astronomers are maneuvering for what they want to see in the next big space telescope. Now, something that is going to happen probably is WFIRST.
Well, yeah,
which is actually more or less funded at the moment, although. There is some concern about the funding not being enough, but WFIRST will be a big space telescope that does a really nice infrared survey, which is something we need.
Well, that's a whole different purpose. It's a whole. I think the WFIRST is supposed to scan the entire.
Yeah, it'll scan most of the sky, and at very high resolution, very good sensitivity. And some, the surveys are often more valuable than the individual zoomed in observations. The surveys let us know what's out there in broad outline, and every survey gets better.
Right.
We just now, for example, WISE is pretty much over, although WISE is still operating in some capacity. WISE was a really great infrared survey. So was Spitzer, but they will easily be surpassed by WFIRST, and the knowledge you gain from each survey contributes to the next.
Right.
And so I'm very enthusiastic about WISE actually being really every bit as important as JWST.
Well, the great thing about the surveys is they let anybody, like the citizen scientist, then can become an astronomer, because if they keep the data set open, like the high school class that discovered a new kind of star, it's like
oh yeah, there's way too many objects for the professionals to study. In fact, just the WISE catalog itself is way too big. So. It's amazing how much can still be learned. I mean, there's some of these big surveys that have been done, even that were done in the 1950s, have not completely mined for all their data.
Really, that's interesting. That could be a project of itself.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's something called the POS, Palomar Observatory Sky Survey, which started in the 1950s and took plates of the entire sky observable from Mount Palomar until the San Diego beer got too good and they had to give up. But what they did was they took these enormous collection of plates, and any good astronomy library will have those, the prints of those, and then a number of years later they took another collection, POS2, and the U.S. Naval Observatory Catalog is based upon those plates, and there are enormous numbers of objects in those plates that have never been studied.
Well, don't they often go back to these like historic plates when they see an asteroid or something that's going to zoom by the Earth? They go by to get a much better orbital elements for it.
Yeah, they can. That's been going on since the 19th century, right? You go back to the old plates and say, "Oh, it should have
there's
been
Uranus." Someone should have discovered it before.
It should have been here, and yeah, there it was. Comets and asteroids. Yeah, they did that.
Yeah, there's always something. Even on the old, what do they call it? The glass.
The glass universe.
Yeah, the glass universe. Yeah, even on those old plates, there's been things that were, turned back and said, let's take a look at that again.
The Harvard collection, yeah, which is amazing. There are people still doing research on the Harvard collection, which goes back to the 1890s.
Yeah.
Harvard was for many years the center of astronomy in the whole world. Because I think it was Mrs. Draper who funded a lot of it after her husband passed away, and she provided a lot of funding for these young ladies to come to Harvard and calculate things like the magnitudes of stars and to study the spectra of stars. And Harvard had this massive collection of plates that they'd taken not only at Harvard but also in the Southern Hemisphere and in Peru. And so they had this massive study, and it was actually they're the ones who discovered the Cepheid variables that led to
yes, classic feminist science.
Yeah, and they actually those ladies discovered a lot of things that are now essential to the way we understand the universe.
Henrietta Swan Leavitt and the period luminosity relationship, I believe.
Yes, which a lot of people are now calling the Leavitt's law, because they want her to get credit for that discovery. What she did is she looked at the I think it was the Lesser Magellanic Cloud, and she said, well, these stars are all about the same distance away, more or less. So the ones that look brighter on the plate should be brighter in reality, and the ones that look dimmer on the plate should be dimmer. And she studied her period. She drew a graph, and it wasn't a perfect straight line, but it was enough of a correlation to say, yeah, there's something here. And she actually was allowed to be a co-author of that paper, which in those days was to have a woman as a co-author was at all. A lead author was not heard of. I can't remember. I think it was. I can't remember the first one. She was also at Harvard. The first woman to actually be a lead author on an astronomy paper was at Harvard, and that wasn't that much. But Henrietta Leavitt discovered this relationship, and Edwin Hubble took that and ran with it, and discovered the distance to the Andromeda Galaxy from using it, and that blew everything wide open.
Well, that was the first important rung in the cosmological distance ladder.
Yeah, and then you could one and it blew everybody away. How far away that
whatever they are, they're pretty far away.
Yeah, well, a lot further away than a lot of people were saying.
Right? Yeah, they're not.
Yeah, this harks back to the great debate between Shapley and Curtis about whether nebula were clouds of dust and gas within the Milky Way or whether they were entirely separate universes, and there were obviously that was solved both by the Leavitt law, but also the availability of the 100-inch telescope that Hubble used. It was able to resolve stars in Andromeda, because before that, the biggest telescopes in the world could not individually resolve stars in Andromeda.
Right.
So you had to have both
And
the technology and the idea came together.
it's hard to believe that that telescope was actually near Los Angeles now.
Right. You're right back.
It's on Mount Wilson. Yeah, that they it was actually a guy named Milton Humason who did a lot of the hard work for Hubble.
Yeah, he figures prominently in Carl Sagan's Cosmos. They make much of Humison's contribution.
But yeah, that people, the notion of something as far away as 2 million light years was devastating to a whole lot of cosmologies then. And then he pointed, and then you point out the obvious, which is this is a big galaxy. This is really huge. It fills a big chunk of the sky. We have images of a whole lot more of them that are much, much smaller than they're therefore probably much, much further away. And that, so you got this guy who was a lawyer, basically, Hubble, studied law, and had gotten into World War I hoping to get killed, and didn't get into much action before it was over. And he came back, and said, yeah, law's not so great. I'll study astronomy, and ended up revolutionizing everything. By the way, he was also the captain of a national championship basketball team.
Is that right?
He was 6'3", which at that time was a very tall guy.
Well, 6'3" is tall.
Yeah. Well, this was, it was I think that was the last time University of Chicago won a basketball game. Or at least, certainly the last time they won a championship. But he was a tall man for his generation. And of course, basketball was a new sport then, so it wasn't that big a deal. But there's a good biography of Hubble. I can't remember who wrote it, but pretty good. It goes into, it really hits the high points in Hubble's life pretty well.
There's an excellent documentary about the building of telescopes called The Journey to Palomar, which is about building the 200-inch telescope, which is it's a 2-hour-long film. I've got it on DVD because I enjoyed it so much. I got a copy for myself. Tells in detail the story of the funding and how long it took to build it. It's quite the story. And and there's a book based on the same. I don't know if it's by the same person. There's a book called The Perfect Machine that's about the 200-inch telescope and talking about its design, and what went into it is quite remarkable. It was when it was built, one of the most sophisticated machines that had ever been built in history.
Yeah, it was a remarkably good telescope, and I remember I went up to Mount Palomar once, and it was actually Mount Palomar has really beautiful skies, and so I know they got those great. I used to work with, by the way, with the late great Charlie Cowell, who did a lot of work at Mount Palomar, analyzing their plates and so forth. It discovered a number of comets and asteroids, and even one of the first Kuiper Belt objects. Oh, it must be getting late.
Someone's got a grandfather clock.
Not me.
Or at least a grandfather clock sound on their cell phone.
Yeah, that's mine. I muted it because it's 11 o'clock.
No, you can take it, Patrick. I'm sure she's eager to hear from you.
What? I missed that one. And I dropped my rubber band.
Oh.
My fidget rubber band. What did I do with it?
Fidgeting. Yeah, who needs a fidget spinner when one has a highlighter?
Yeah, I had a Chinese roommate once who taught me how to spin a pencil over my thumb, and
According to Google Maps, it takes 3 hours and 4 minutes to drive from the Mount Wilson Observatory to the Mount Palomar Observatory.
That's about right. Yeah, yeah. I've been to both. One's in northern Los Angeles County. One's in Orange County.
Mount Wilson. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Orange County, or maybe no, probably.
Well, Google says Palomar is in the Cleveland National Forest. I didn't know there was a Cleveland National Forest, but that's what it says.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
close
sort of
to Escondido.
This big park that sort of bounds the eastern part of Orange County and goes on a little further south.
Immediately inland from Carlsbad.
Yeah, but well, I mean, you have to go up a big mountain.
Yeah. Well, Carlsbad is on the coast. That's why I said immediately inland from Carlsbad.
Yeah, it's beautiful out there. I mean, one thing I'd recommend to anybody really interested is wants to drive up to Mount Palomar at night and enjoy the beautiful night sky they have. You can't quite go to the observatory, but you can go most of the way and park and enjoy. And if you're living, by the way, if you're living in San Diego or Los Angeles, the silence will be absolutely a treat. Just the sheer silence, the lack of noise, and then around the wee hours of the morning, drive down from Mount Palomar into the Anza Borrego Desert. It's beautiful. The desert is gorgeous in the early morning, and then hopefully you have a destination where you can get some shut eye. Either around that area, but and of course it gets really hot during the day.
Sounds great. My fantasy is to organize a party with my friends to go to Great Basin National Park, where they have one of the campgrounds you can drive to is like at 10,000 feet. Just to like take our those of us who have our telescopes, go up there and have a little star party that you drive to, for those of us. I mean, not me. I'm a strenuous hiker, but I mean, a lot of my friends are as old as I am, and they don't do this sort of stuff anymore. So you can just drive up, have great skies, high altitude, out in the middle of nowhere. Anyway, that's one of my fantasies. And there's desert. The Great Basin has got great, ecology for those interested in such things.
Yeah, I miss the West. Out here in the East.
Believe me, I miss the West. I'm from the West. I only moved here because wife unit told me, she made me promise I would do it, and so she wouldn't lie, and so I did.
What's the percentage of the solar eclipse going to be where you're at?
Where I'm at is Baltimore, so 0%.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to try to. I'm going to take a very relaxed attitude to the eclipse because we always have bad weather during things like that.
Well, I'm already planning a party, but we're going to get 74.1% according to my last information here.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to project the sun. I have this big screen.
So that means it's definitely a cloudy day.
Yeah, that's my fear. Like plan $1,000 vacation for like 5 minutes of clouds. Okay. Whoa.
Mike, you saying something? Because I see your lips moving.
Yeah. I'm not trying to. I'm supposed to be in the 90%, so I'm going for it.
Oh yeah, 90.
Yeah, but I've been planning this. I've been working on it. I got my solar glasses.
I didn't get mine yet. I'm getting them from the library, but I'm going to be projecting it with the telescope.
That's what I'm planning on.
Screen that I made. I think you might have seen some of my YouTube videos, but the poster board is 22 inches wide, so the image I get is anywhere from 15 to 18 inches in diameter.
All right, that's good. Yeah, if I was going to do it, I'd probably use binoculars since I don't have a telescope. But that's great. Projecting it. We had a partial here a few years ago, and we used binoculars to project.
I got 2 telescopes. I'm setting those up. I got a camera. I'm short 2 filters, but I'm hoping to record it. All I'm hoping for is clear sky. If I don't get a clear sky, that's going to kill me. But I'm going to be ready for it. I even got a spot already set up. My mom's house. There's no trees anywhere. There's nothing that's going to block me. Well, I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
I'm crossing my fingers because 9 times out of 10 we get clouds here, and there was a partial solar eclipse here not 74%, but there was one here a few years ago, and it was cloudy. In fact, I think it was raining. It was like it was like a loss for me.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know how many years ago that was. Maybe
Yeah,
10.
there was a total solar eclipse in the late 80s in Hawaii, and a friend of mine had this huge vacation, went out there, took all his gear. You know, he had totally planned it out. Like minutes before totality, clouds came in, covered the sun.
Oh, bummer.
You know, as soon as the eclipse was over, the clouds disappeared. You know, his whole big thing was just a total loss, and I just can't. You know, I'm a depressive kind of person, so I assume that if I planned a similar expedition, the same thing would happen to me.
Next time, plan your expedition above the level of the atmosphere. Then you'll be safe.
Well, I can't really afford the first kind, so the second kind is even even farther beyond me.
I'm sure the Sophia telescope will be out there.
Yes, well, yes, there's a whole big plan, like to track, you know. It's going to be a great eclipse.
Oh, yeah,
from every perspective.
You're always able to see it on the computer and stuff. You know, somebody brought from somewhere. But the thing is there's something beautiful about seeing it with your own two eyes.
Yes, I mean there is that.
I've never seen a total eclipse, and I understand. You know, I see on the screen. I've seen photos and videos of them, and how beautiful that corona is that you could see. But to see it.
To see the actual thing, and if you're projecting it, you know, onto your poster board, to see that with your own eyes.
Well, it's
the actual photons hitting your eyes from the
right. The only thing is, it's going to be partial. I'm not going to be able to see the. You know, I'm not going to get those Bailey's beads or anything like that.
Yeah, I just want to be there. I want to. I don't care. I'm going to be ready, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It's just the way it works. But I'm taking that day off. I got everything planned. I'm going to be there. My mom's house is like, it's just a perfect spot. So I'm going to hop in there and set up in her backyard, make sure everything's working. And
keep saying this word Moss house. Is that a thing? Moss?
My mother's house.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, my mother's house.
Because I love moss, you know, and
yeah.
If someone has something called a moss house, I want to know about it, because then
yeah,
I will add a moss house to my fern museum.
Well,
I also love ferns.
You should go to Norway, where they build houses with moss all over the top of them.
Yes, I should. I think
pretty exciting stuff.
You know, moss and ferns, oddly enough, need the least amount of molecular oxygen to conduct photosynthesis. You may not know this, but there has to actually be oxygen in the air for photosynthesis to occur.
I did not.
Not much. There's one reaction. There's a reaction for creating sterols. You know, an enzymatic reaction to create sterols, which are an essential component of the cell membrane that absolutely require molecular oxygen. There's an epoxide ring in the chain of reactions. And in an early atmosphere that was mostly CO2, photodissociation would create enough molecular oxygen for this. But so like mosses and ferns only need something like 0.5% O2 in the atmosphere.
Does that have anything to do with them evolving before the other kinds of what are their angiosperms?
Almost certainly. The point I was getting to is that, like, if you're going to terraform Mars, you know, the first plants that would actually be able to survive in the wild, you know, if you increase the density of the atmosphere.
Yeah, well, look at
increase the temperature. The mosses and ferns would be the first, non-algae sort of plants.
Yeah, well, look at Arctic tundra. That's moss basically over stone, because it's the only thing that survives there.
Lichen survives. Algae. Lichen will probably be the absolute very first photosynthesizer, but beyond that,
lichen, algae, and moss. Okay, there's a recipe for terraforming.
Yep, that's in my opinion. Yes. If I was going to terraform Mars,
that was already in the science fiction. I got it on DVD over here.
But anyway, the moss house. I want a moss house, but that's not what you're talking about. But now I'll have to invent. I'll have to invent a moss house, because I love moss. I think moss is great. It's very
Yeah.
hard to identify moss. You can't just look at it and tell what species it is. You need a microscope and this big book and all this shit.
Because my backyard, well, when I was a kid, we had a playhouse, and my dad put a sod roof on it. Literally got sod and put it on the roof of this thing. And I think the grass eventually died, but then the moss took over it. We get this really fine stuff. I think it's moss. I'm not.
Could be algae. Algae kind of look like a moss sometimes.
Yeah, because I know my backyard. I mean, I can pull up whole chunks of it, especially in back where I got a lot of trees, and it's a lot of neat. Well,
Shade.
A lot of shade.
Shade and duff from the tree needles and.
Well, I got mostly oaks and elms
Oh,
back there.
okay.
So it's kind of. I try to keep it that way. I used to have these 2 huge oak trees in my backyard. They both died and fell over. I think the one in my front yard is maybe at least a 200-year-old oak.
Huh.
So it's my baby. I try to keep an eye on it because the one oak that got killed, I found. Well, there was all sorts of neat critters living in it. Bugs. There's bugs that I had never seen before. Like this big. It's like it looked like a grub, but it was like maybe about the size of a $50. Kind of. I mean, it freaked me out when I saw it, and I'm like, I've never seen one of these things. And even when I pulled it out, I mean, it was hanging on. It's like it had latched on to whatever it was eating or whatever it was doing inside that tree. But
It's often surprising how hard small little critters can hold on to their substrate. You know, you can't just pluck them up. You know, they're just wow.
Yeah.
Good thing it's not me they're holding on to.
Yeah, I was like, this thing could really mess me up. You know. But,
Well, if you think about the weedy species that would gain a foothold in a harsh environment where they're the first stage of ecological succession, they've got to be tough, or they would never be part of that process. It's only later when you get more towards a climax community ecosystem that you get the more delicate kind of species that get wiped out very rapidly. But then when there's a denudation event, then it's those hardy weed-like species that are the ones to go in first and grab onto the rocks and make a home for other things. Those seeds that settle down in the moss, and eventually there's enough of a layer of soil they can actually grow.
Well, yes, it's very interesting. Lichens are actually a symbiotic community. They're not a single species. They're algae and fungus.
And recently there was an article just in the past month. There was an article that lichen aren't 2 species. There are actually 3 species that are cooperating.
Yes, that's very interesting. It's in a sense it's not surprising, but of course. But why didn't we see this before, right? Well, it's because algae all look the same, you know. Like, well, it looks like algae. Until you get molecular analysis, you can't really tell the difference. Until you decide to look at something that's formally not interesting, or seemingly so. See, that's the genius of just. Following your dream. Yeah, Paul, you're still silent. Are you fucking with your shit over there somehow?
No, I didn't even realize Paul had gone silent again.
I was just looking at him to see if you.
I'm just troubleshooting.
Oh.
So, yeah, go ahead. Talk amongst yourselves.
We have teachers' permission to talk amongst ourselves until revoked.
I still haven't remembered that damn name of that new telescope that they're thinking of building.
Well, I did a couple searches and I couldn't find anything. But like Paul said, they probably change each design. Has its own name, and it's mostly just the quest for funding now.
Well, yeah,
Right.
the funding picture is very murky. So,
Yeah, unless they actually
well-
have money to start building it, it's paper. It's
Well,
Well, it
I should
hasn't
say
even- it hasn't
more
even finished.
murky than usual.
They haven't even
Uh,
finished the design yet. You know, we're talking. You know, it's
Well,
still-
no,
it's still
there's
being-
no, they haven't started the design yet. What they
Well,
haven't
designs in
finished.
the they have back of the envelope designs.
It's like
a
this. It's like
requirement. You have to
what
define
they
the
learned from
requirement.
building the James Webb Space Telescope. They're going to put that knowledge into building this new one now.
Right.
Now that they know how to do it, they want to do it.
Well, I wouldn't be too optimistic that all the amazingly complex engineering that's gone into JWST will go into the next generation at all.
I don't know what you're saying, Paul, because the podcast I was listening to had three key scientists.
Oh well, it was a Peacock podcast, and it must have been true.
No, I'm saying there was three key scientists talking about it.
Yeah, but
talking
well,
about the idea and everything.
they will learn things at a certain level of abstraction. But
You could just go back in your browser memory and see what podcast you're listening to and pull it out if you want.
NASA does not build the same thing twice.
It's not the same thing.
That's one of their problems. I would love to see mass-produced,
It's not the same thing. It's twice as big.
opportunities.
Well, it's gonna be so different that the JWST lessons learned will be important at some level of abstraction, but the technology will be new and everything will be redesigned.
It's the foldable origami objective, a mirror. That's the
Well,
main.
the origami part is what gets everybody worried, right?
I know, but that is the same sort of thing. That's what they learned how to do.
Well, but if you can,
it's not going to be deep into infrared. It's going to be more into the visual. It's going to orbit. This is what I was trying to ask them on the side chat, and they didn't answer me. Was is it really going to be able to orbit the same L2? I mean, I don't know how that works. How can there be two telescopes in the same orbit?
Well,
that's easy. That's
It's a volume, really.
There's a lot of space out there, Patrick. It's no problem putting more than one thing in L2.
Okay.
It's a volume. It's putting several things into a volume.
You could put thousands of satellites in L2, and you wouldn't notice the difference.
Okay.
Yeah. The O'Neill colony designs for L4 and L5. There were intended to be hundreds of them following a kidney-shaped orbit.
Those are real. Those are real volumes. I mean, those are stable volumes. I mean, nothing in L2 is stable, but I mean, around the point, it's like.
Well, we have a lot of satellites at L1.
Yeah.
And Earth, Sun L1.
They're halo orbits. You can put a bunch of shit out there.
These things are hundreds of thousands of kilometers wide.
Yeah, you answered my question. I couldn't get that question answered when I was.
Yeah, well, the thing is, yeah, there's plenty of room out there. That's not a problem.
Space is a big place.
I just thought it'd be like an interference problem, like gravitationally.
No.
Not between the objects.
Now, if they somehow screwed up and put everything at the same RF frequency, then there could be a potentially, but that won't happen. There's a lot of coordination that goes on.
I'm sure of that.
So did you see the origami, the World Origami Championships?
No.
Yeah, I was going to watch it, but we don't have pay-per-view.
Well, okay, let's talk about pay-per-view now. Oh no,
Paper.
No, let's talk about the World Origami Championship.
Pay-per-view. Pay-per-view. Okay. Testing. Just testing.
Giggle.
Okay, I get paper. All right.
Yes, okay. Sorry.
I got it right away.
I'm very literal-minded. And I'm very pissed that my microphone's not working.
Yeah. That's pretty depressing. It's a total disappointment. The whole thing, this whole podcast is kind of screwed up because of that. I think it's your mistake.
This is not a podcast, by the way. This is the pub.
Well, okay. Nerdcast. Actually, that's what I was telling them. I got to go to the Nerdcast.
Oh, no, my feelings are hurt.
What? It's not. Nerd is a term of approbation.
I'll be right back. I got another technical issue.
Okay. Fluid management. You got to manage those fluids.
I think I should grab another soda too.
Soda. A few more milliliters of vaping fluid.
I got it on charge now. It wouldn't charge on the certain wires. It's got a bum plug. For some reason, these thinner ones, because of the bum plug, this thinner one doesn't seem to charge it right.
Huh.
Whereas the other one, I guess it must be just a little thicker and it makes connection.
Yeah, I keep my printer cable is messed up in some way that I can only print if I stretch the printer cable out, so that it's essentially one long, with no bends in it.
That's funny. It's funny because I got a Wi-Fi printer and I bought it for $13.
And it works?
Cartridges cost me more than two of the printers.
That's part of the plan.
It's a Canon.
They sell the printers cheap so they can make money on the ink.
Yeah, well, this was like a discontinue or a clearance or something at Walmart, and I went up to the guy and I said, look, I got to print out something, and I don't have a printer right now, and I just need the cheapest printer you have. And I'm looking at $30 or $40, and I didn't really have that either. And I'm looking at their printers, and the guy said to me, I think I got one in the back for $13. I said, what? I'll take it. It was sealed Canon printer for $13. I'll take it. What can you do? So, anyway.
Yeah, I hate spending money on computer crap, especially obvious, standard stuff like. Why should I have to buy another printer?
Yeah, I've got an HP printer here, scanner. It's been up here for like 10 years. It works fine, but the cartridges are like $50. I said, shit, I'm gonna buy a printer. Forget about it. Why should I spend the money on that?
Well, I print one page. On average, I probably print one page every month. I don't print much. But when you gotta print, you gotta print.
Yeah, I was working on some silly project or something, and I needed to print out something.
Well, sometimes I need to print out a PDF that someone sends me that I have to sign, and then I don't even have a scanner, so I print it out, I sign it, and I take a picture of it with my phone, and then I email the picture to them. And it works for them, and if it works for me, it works for them.
Yeah.
But the printing, the printing is an essential component. It's just like, fuck.
Well, I think I know why this printer was discontinued, because I printed up a couple of pages and the thing was telling me there was low on black ink. I'm like, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so, right? So I sooner or later went out and bought a black ink cartridge, and it seemed to last okay. Then I said, you know what? And I started to print up more stuff, and then now it was actually low. So I said, all right, I'll put the old one back in because I saved it. And it complained and it complained, and I'm still printing. So I think that's probably why they discontinued it, because I think they botched the sensor or something.
Well, the printers are not for printing; they're for making money for cartridge manufacturers.
Right. But you're low on ink, and you probably have like a half.
They are cash generators for those people, and. If you go to Staples, you'll see a big long aisle of inkjet cartridges, and another big long aisle of laser printer toner. Yeah. And it's a nice cash.
Right. It's not. They're not selling printers. They're selling toner.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think Canon deliberately made that report low ink way before it's actually low.
It's an opportunity for somebody to step in and say, hey, we get that there's a scam going on here. And
well, there are printers being marketed now that say we've got a big enough ink supply, and the one we ship that it can last for a year. I saw one advertised that way.
Yes, and there's an arms race between the aftermarket, trying to subvert, because we'll just sell you ink and you can inject it into your cartridge. Well, then the printer manufacturer puts in detectors to detect whether you're injecting ink into the cartridge. Yeah. And so then the ink, second market, is like, well, we have a special tool to help you inject the ink. It's like,
well, this is like the Keurig coffee maker, right? They came out with this coffee maker a lot of people enjoyed using. These little plastic cups you stick in, and then people said, well, hell, we can do that, and then Keurig put in DRM into the coffee into the machine so that you couldn't use a third-party coffee cartridge.
Right.
without their approval.
You can't. You can't if you broach the seal on the existing cartridge. It somehow detects that, so you can't just refill it. And
so on this subject, it's impossible not to mention the Juicero debacle and the $200 million invested in making the juicing machine when you can just squeeze the packs by hand.
Yeah. I'll be right back. Gotta get something to drink.
Yeah, well, I heard about that. Yeah.
There were some really funny articles that have been written about it, and there are still people out there defending it. Just a few weeks ago, the guy who was behind Juicero wrote another article defending it and telling people, "Don't you dare squeeze those packs by hand."
Well, that we one year we rented a condo on the beach and we had a Keurig machine. We thought it was great. The kids loved it because they could do hot chocolate in it, and we thought when we get home we're going to get a Keurig machine. Then we dig in a little bit deeper. They go, oh, people spend a significant portion of their disposable income on buying these little cups. And so we decided to stick with grinding it ourselves.
Yes, that's a good exercise for your children. Say, just bring me a pro forma business statement for using the Keurig machine, and then you can devote some amount of your allowance to it.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to snuff out your kids' demands, is to require them to do some research.
Yeah, but is it good? Out of curiosity, is it good coffee or not?
It's okay.
It's okay, but it's not great.
Well, I don't know from great, but
I mean, I would consider spending a lot of money on a machine if the result was just great and it was something that was important to me. But if it's just okay and you can do it better, with your percolator or French press.
I'm just a coffee junkie. I don't understand the connoisseur side of it.
I mean, if you're looking to make one cup at a time. If you're looking to make one cup at a time, you know what I mean?
You're not a coffee snob, I guess.
Well, I think I find the office coffee completely repugnant. So I guess at that level I'm a snob, but
okay.
We go to Trader Joe's and buy the $5 tin, right, that we grind ourselves, and it's fine. We both like it just fine.
Yeah, when you grind your own coffee, even the cheaper ones are good, but to sit there with the Keurigs and make one cup at a time, that's I got to have at least a couple of mugs of coffee.
I need to make a carafe and have it ready to pour.
Yeah, you can't drink one cup at a time. And then the stuff costs so damn much. It costs for those Keurig things. They cost more for the singles than a 5 pound.
Yeah, well, it's just like my point was just like the ink cartridges, only more frequent.
Yeah, because every industry wants a dedicated group of people who are buying their products, and as so their income that you can count on. You can't count on the income from the sale of the machines, but you can count on the income.
Sell the machines at a loss and get the service contract. I mean,
that's exactly.
You want the service contract, or you want regular users, just like electricity companies want ratepayers, and that's why Microsoft Office has moved to a thing where instead of selling you the actual program, they let you have to subscribe, and you pay a few dollars every month, and you get to use it.
Yeah, well, and those schemes are out there all over the place, and consumers should be smart about it, because
consumers should be more punitive toward these companies and let them know they're not going to get away with it. But a lot of people just let themselves get pushed around.
Do it.
Well, I dumped inkjet altogether. For example, I won't buy an inkjet printer anymore. I have a laser printer that takes toner cartridges, because I have students in my house who need to print things, but the reality is I don't need to print hardly anything, and I have moved away from printing as much as I can.
I try to avoid it.
I put things that I want to read on my Kindle, or I put them some other format where I can read them electronically. And well, if you're doing a real estate transaction, you're going to have to print out stuff and sign it. But that help. We do that every 15 years.
Right.
So.
Just get a fax machine and fax it to yourself.
Well, actually, my printer faxes, scans, and prints.
Oh, yes. Most of them, you can easily get those nowadays.
And it was not an expensive printer.
No.
No. It's a Samsung, and it's actually pretty. We wish we have a Samsung printer and a Samsung washing machine.
Yeah, but I bet you it wasn't as cheap as mine.
Was it less than $13?
$13. Give it to me. I'll take it.
That's one thing I do like.
And it's Wi-Fi. It's in the other room. I don't have to put it in this messy room.
I do. The next printer I get is going to be Wi-Fi.
Oh, they pretty much all are that now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, mine is like 15 years ago. So.
Oh well, yeah. You know, I miss the old Apple printers. I remember.
Actually, when I first got the printer, I got it set. I had 2 Macs. I had one like an old Mac. I set it up as a server, and it worked. I could print, to the print server. And then they changed. They upgraded. I could never get the driver to reinstall, so I could use it. Over the net. But then I never print all that much anyway. So like to devote the amount of effort that would be required to solve the problem, which I could do. There's other things I could do also. And
well, I mean, if
I prefer to do those things.
That infrequent, take it to Kinko's, and they'll print it for you.
I do that. We have a Staples a mile away. If I absolutely have to print something, and the printer's fucked up for some reason, I'll go there.
When I get rich, I want to buy myself a 3D printer and print up myself a nice chess set.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, you should do that, Patrick.
I want to print a chess set with me as the king.
Part 1, get rich.
Scarlett Johansson as the queen. My friends as the pawns.
Yeah.
There's plenty of pretty reasonable 3D printers out there.
Yeah, but
but you know how much stuff it would take to print up a chess set? Especially the size that I want. I want a 4-inch or better king, 4.5-inch king.
Yeah, that's probably about a 4-hour.
You're boasting about your king size now.
Phrasing.
It's not the opening; it's the combination.
That's right.
It's not the meat; it's the movement.
Yes, exactly. That's an exact metaphor I was shooting for.
Actually, I have a decent.
Maria Maldauer.
I have a decent set. It's a 4 1/4-inch king or 4 1/8-inch king. I have it.
Oh well. I'm sure the ladies are very impressed.
No, that's enough of that joke. Come on.
I got to get going now, so I got to say goodbye.
Yeah, it must be.
Okay, it was enjoyable talking to you, Nick.
Yeah. Bye, Nick. Thanks for showing up.
Good night, Nick.
Take it easy.
Bye.
And now they're going to pick on me even more.
So is Nick famous in some realm, or?
Well, he shows up on Centauri Dreams from time to time. And,
okay.
As a blogger, and a lot of people like his blog. He's been on, but the pinnacle of his fame, he's been on the Wow Signal podcast a few times. Yes, but that few can dream of such fame.
So 10 people know who he is, right? Or
oh no, 20 or 30.
20. Okay. Sorry to underestimate.
No. He calls himself a one-man think tank. So.
Yeah, don't we all call ourselves that?
I don't. I don't consider myself a think tank at all.
I've had my moments where I think I'm in a think tank. When I was working through you
have no idea how much bullshit is involved in think tanks.
Well, that's what I was dealing with, a lot of bullshit.
Oh, well, in that case, maybe you are.
When I was looking at, that there was that History Channel, Amelia Earhart thing. And I started, well, fortunately, somebody in Japan found the original photo and kind of tore pretty much the whole premise of that show disintegrated within 48 hours of it airing. But I'm going through and I watched this. I watched documentary twice and taking down notes as best I can. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is you're giving this a lot. I mean, really, the whole thing was a line of bullshit. And I'm like, why are you saying that there was no combat over the Marshall Islands? Oh, you're referring to Millie Atoll. Well, I got a battle report of the U.S. attacking Millie Atoll. So there's been aircraft over those, in combat over those islands, and it's like, so how come this little chunk of metal you say came off that Amelia Earhart's airplane? Because it would have been the only airplane on that island when, all the, and that's like, it's like, okay, and I kept writing, I'm jotting stuff down. I'm like, why are you making this claim? Well, because you're making a bullshit, and it came down to you just making a bullshit thing for the History Channel.
I want to take that.
Isn't that kind of redundant, a bullshit thing for the History Channel?
Yeah, that's pretty much, yeah. I mean, if this doesn't prove it, I mean, I don't think there's much hope for our civilization.
No, I mean, I'm sure you all realize this, but I mean, with the prevalence of cell phone cameras and shit, if Sasquatch existed, we would now know. If UFOs were alien spacecraft, it would be unequivocal. I mean, just come on, people. What is wrong with you?
Yeah. Well, we get a lot of videos, but most of them are such poor quality that you can't really discern anything.
Right, but that was true in the past. In the past, we had a small number of crappy videos. Now we have
a large number of crappy videos.
Okay, a large number of crappy videos. Now, if what they were taking videos of was an actual events that were occurring, nowadays we would have vast quantities of crappy videos and a small number of good videos.
The Earth is flat. Come on.
Oh, yeah, of course it's flat.
It's not 6,000 years old. It's only 5,500 years old.
Yeah, well, that'll get you to the White House. Keep
yeah, right? Oh, man. You had to bring that up. That man just...
Sorry, I promised myself I would never talk about that subject, and here I am bringing it up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, I agree. Flat Earth is a kind of boring subject. Because, let's face it, people who believe that will believe anything, and you can't... There's no point in talking to them.
There's no point in talking to them.
There isn't. It's just ridiculous.
And, it doesn't matter if they happen to be well-known rappers or athletes. It just doesn't matter. There's no point. It's like remember Insane Clown Posse? They had this thing like fucking magnets. What? How do they work?
Oh yeah, fucking magnets. How do they work?
Oh yeah.
It's not like science
it's
doesn't
mysterious.
have a thoroughly complete theory of magnetism, already very well validated.
It's like they work like rubber bands. Go away.
Yeah.
Well, I've picked my humanitarian effort, and that's what I'm working on, so I don't care about anything anybody says, frankly.
Hey, before you go, Dean, I wanted to ask you about what you're doing with the algae and stuff.
Shoot.
I mean, you've been posting some pictures of a pit. I don't understand exactly what you're doing. There's a pit and there's algae.
The pit is, we drain the algae into a large surface area so it dries rapidly in the sun. Personally, it's not my... I'm doing site visits to colleagues, where they have a project, which is a great project. And what we do for the rest of you, I'm an applied phycologist. What I do is grow algae as an agricultural crop, basically. And to the project Paul is referring to, we have a small system at this location, and the way it works is we pump water out of the source. It drains down this artificial stream and goes right back out. I mean, we don't add anything. We don't take anything out. We just run it through this kind of a flume. But the way we design it is such that algae want to grow in it. And if you, as you may know, wherever it's wet, algae wants to grow. And it grows great. I mean, it really wants to grow.
What is the the goal? What is the purpose of?
The purpose is to remove nitrogen and phosphorus from the water. Non-point pollution. It's the most expensive pollution to deal with because it's low concentration and it's ubiquitous. And so it turns out algae are excellent at extracting low concentration nutrients from water, which should not be a surprise since they they're everywhere and they're very good at what they do. So anyway, as long as you keep harvesting the algae and removing it from the system, you're removing the nutrients and providing and sort of resetting the system so new growth can occur. And so in terms of biomass, we're about 5 to 10 times more efficient, or in terms of grams per square meter, whatever the local agriculture is. So it's extremely good at converting photosynthesis, solar power and nutrients and CO2 into biomass. And so this drying pit, we just pour it in this area and let it evaporate so we can then shovel it up. It starts out as 5% solids, and when it's dry, it's 95% solids.
Wow.
But it's area inefficient to do that. I don't like it. I think it's ridiculous.
These phosphorus and nitrogen, that's like pollution to the Chesapeake Bay. Is that?
It's pollution anywhere. It creates algae blooms. Okay, it comes wherever there's excess nutrients in the water, you get algae blooms. The algae grows and uses up all the nutrients, and then the nutrients are gone, and so then they die, and then they rot, and then they create an anaerobic situation, which creates toxic chemicals and anoxic zones. So the whole Mississippi basin is full of algae blooms, and the Gulf of Mexico is full of algae blooms and these dead zones, hypoxic dead zones. And it's all because of this excess N and P, which you need to apply it in excess to have high productivity agriculture. So the whole, anywhere there's high productivity agriculture, you don't have soil, you have like a culture medium, where they add several times more phosphorus and nitrogen than the plants actually need just to get a marginal increase in bushels per acre, which you have to do if you're a farmer or you'll go out of business. It's a perverse economic situation where, you have to hurt other people in order to make a profit. Anything downstream of your farm is getting the runoff from your farm, whether it's chickens or wheat. And so anyway, no one wants to clean it up, but someone's going to have to clean it up someday. And our system is there's no more cost-effective system, in my knowledge, than the system we're using. But even so, no one wants to pay for it. It's a very difficult struggle to try and get people to adopt it. But anyway, we're not using the drying pit anymore. Hopefully, we're pumping the algae into a tank and then putting it into some digesters for biogas. Here, I'm rolling my eyes. You can't tell I'm rolling my eyes here. There's no way you can go from biomass to methane and get net energy if that's your goal. If your goal is to clean up pollution, you can easily do it. And the point is, you've got to you create so much biomass. Okay, now what do you do? Okay, you have all this non-point pollution. Let's say you fix the problem with enough surface area of growing algae. But what that means is now you have tons of algae, piles of biomass sitting around. What do you do with that? You've got to do something. You could landfill it. You could turn it into biochar. You could turn it into biogas. There's a lot of things you could do with it. That's the number one problem for us is not growing the algae. It's getting rid of the algae. And it's a tough problem. No one thinks about it. And so here's the paradox. In the past, it's been so expensive to clean up non-point pollution that, okay, well, give us your proposals. Oh, well, they're too expensive. We'd love to do it, but we can't afford it. Okay, well, what if someone comes along and says, here's a solution, it's affordable, we can do it? Then they say, yeah, well, we didn't really want to pay for it anyway. So that's that, and it's getting more. Eventually, it's going to be bad enough that some people will pay for it. That's what I'm betting on, anyway. But anyway, so what Paul is referring to, I post things on my Google Plus, when I go down and visit the sites. I try to get a good-looking photograph, a compelling image. I try to explain what we're doing in a few words. It's hard to really, say what we're doing, because it would take thousands of words, really. But that's coming out. I've got paper accepted. I'm doing revisions. It'll be out September 6th. Or sometime after September 6th, once I submit, and then all the copy editing is done and so forth.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, now. So, what are we talking about? I mean, in the past, they've said not cost effective. Given that this is a really massive industry, a large industry, is there? Where's that break point where it is cost effective?
Okay. Well, so you'll never be able to. As a profit-making enterprise, just grow biomass and sell it, because it's not high-value biomass. So the money has to come from cleaning up pollution, which actually is, if you clean up, it's like I can't remember the exact numbers, but like on a per-pound basis, you could conceivably get thousands of dollars per pound of phosphorus removed, for example, from non-point pollution, if you could do it, which we can. And actually, it's, I'm pessimistic, and I'm coming across as pessimistic. That's a BMP now in Maryland, and will soon be throughout the whole Chesapeake, where you can charge the government money if you remove N and P using our technology. It's called algal turf scrubbing, ATS, algal turf scrubbing. It's approved. You can actually do it and just claim benefits. The thing is, it still costs like thousands of dollars a ton to create the biomass, because you've got to, it's high surface area. You've got to pump the water. You got to get permits. Blah blah blah. So the only way to get net revenue, it's never going to be profitable on its own. So you need subsidies, which means you need like carbon credits, nitrogen credits, phosphorus credits, and you probably need to, somehow sell the biomass at, $100 a ton or something. So the economics only works if there's a jurisdiction willing to pay to clean up non-point pollution.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Well, for example, Chesapeake Bay, its production of fish and shellfish is threatened by this kind of pollution, isn't it?
Yes. But
So,
the watermen will never pay extra money to clean it up. The farmers pay lobbyists to bribe politicians to let them dump excess pollution, so they'll never pay extra. So the taxpayer is going to have to pay extra so that the government can give benefits to the algae growers.
well, if rockfish is like $40 a pound, right? There's an economic incentive somewhere. I can't figure out exactly.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I totally agree. Believe me. I totally agree. We need, for the Chesapeake, we need about 3,000 acres, most likely, to clean up. Half the pollution comes from the Susquehanna. The other half comes from, the chicken farmers and the rest of the farmers, that just sort of, and it's all non-point. So you have to distribute your acreage throughout the watershed, to make sure you get it. And my colleague, it's Pat Kangas and Peter May, the guys I'm working with down there. They pretty much ramrodded this through over the last 20 years. So it takes about 20 years to get this to become an approved governmentally, available practice.
Well, it's an interesting case study, if nothing else.
Yes, the thing is, for the paper that I've got, it's accepted. I'm doing revisions on it right now. It's basically the manifesto for like cleaning up the whole world, of nitrogen and phosphorus excesses from all of agriculture. How many million acres do you need? About 80 million hectares, depending on your data set. Plus or minus a few tens of millions of acres. It's very doable. It's like the amount of the U.S. The highway system in the U.S. is about, in terms of number of acres, is about 60 million acres of actual roads, something like that. So it's totally doable if you want to do it. The problem is no one wants to do it because it costs money. You've got to make a profit. No one wants to pay to clean up what they do. You know, the nanny state. You know, the nanny state. What's the nanny state? The nanny state is all the states that pollute. You know, they need to have the nanny come in and wipe their diapers. You know, but they don't want to do it, so they just sit around and let other people sit in their filth. Nobody cares. Okay, I'm being depressive here. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm depressed. I need a glass of wine.
So anyway, you're just seeing the results of a little project that's going on. It's in the Baltimore Harbor.
Well, when you get your paper out, send us a link. We'll propagate.
Oh yes, it's believe me, everyone I know will know it's published. So it's due September. The revisions are due September 6th, and so it might be a week or two to with copy editing and whatnot to get it online. But it'll be online, open access. It's getting paid for by my boss's institution. So I owe my boss 3 papers. This will be number 2, and so I owe him 1 more. I mean, he stopped paying me, but but I still owe him. I mean, he paid me for 3 papers, so he's got 2 now. He just needs 1 more.
Okay. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to check on my chat here.
Oh, do we have an audience? Can you tell who's watching?
We have 1 viewer, which I think is a record for us. Hold on.
Hello, viewer. Welcome.
Yeah, well, I'm going to check the chat here.
Okay. Well, it's almost midnight anyway, at least here.
I have to grab my vape because Mike Bowler just lit up a cigarette. And he's making me.
Mike, stop tempting the poor boy.
I'm just a bad influence, I guess.
I don't smoke, but I do when I do smoke tobacco. I do get a little bit of a buzz.
That's all right. I got a vape thing here.
I never inhale though. I've never been able to inhale tobacco. But I just get high from the contact with my mucous membranes in my mouth.
I didn't inhale and I didn't enjoy it. Okay.
I tried to inhale, but it made me cough. So cannabis, on the other hand, I can inhale that a small amount, in very small amounts. I can inhale that. Tobacco, no, I can't do it.
Well, my sister's got the medical marijuana vape thing going on.
Yeah, I have several neighbors who vape cannabis, and I've tried their vaping.
She's got MS, and she's trying to figure out how to make. She's trying to make oils and stuff. And one time she said she got really sick because she made too much and she was touching it. She didn't realize it got absorbed in the skin. And
yeah.
So go ahead.
Go to California and you will see medical marijuana clinics on every corner. They have this big green sign.
It's like the Green Cross, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, Green Cross. Yeah, it's very popular. And T.J. Miller recently did a HBO comedy special where he said, I applied for medical marijuana in California because of my anxiety. My anxiety is mostly caused by the possibility of me getting arrested for having marijuana.
Yeah, that's one reason I wanted to move to marijuana a few years ago. Was like, I can get a prescription. It's like, I want to smoke marijuana. Well, why? Well, if I don't smoke marijuana, I feel bad. Oh, well, here. Better prescribe some for you.
The thing is I quit smoking, and I mean smoking, anything.
You mean like smoke?
Yeah.
What?
I can try and find the vape version of stuff like that, but yeah.
Well,
I'd like to vape LSD. Is that possible?
Oh, we have 2 viewers now, by the way.
One's probably the FBI. They're AI.
Yeah, probably
clinging to our conversation.
Now we have like the Maryland State Police on us.
I didn't do it. It wasn't me.
Feel free to announce yourself. You can even come in if you want. I'll give you the link. The link is on Twitter at Podcast Unseen.
Yeah, there's at least 6 minutes left.
At least. Although I'm going to have to go upstairs soon, because
yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, look at that. That's not much.
well, yeah, about 5 drops. So anyway, we had fun tonight. I think we could maybe wrap it up now. The next Unseen Pub will be in September, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, it should be published by then.
Yeah.
My blog entry, I mean my paper, should be online.
No, I do blog entries. You do papers.
Yes, well, you do papers.
No, not really.
You have done papers.
I have done papers, but we engineers aren't into papers.
Yeah, well, I would rather just do turf scrubbers, but
I'd rather build and fly things that go into space rather than write papers.
well, frankly, that's actually after the next paper, I'm going to do a space paper. That's the Brown Dragon paper.
Oh, I remember that we talked about that.
After this one, yeah, that's
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and I'm going to try to help you sell that.
well, I'll start circulating it. I mean, you could possibly be a co-author. Really, I don't.
I
it's
don't.
Sort of unformed at the moment, but
I have zero expertise in what you're doing, but I would like to see. And Goddard is not the best place for that, but there are places in NASA that should.
No, but you could do. I mean, you're familiar with trajectory type analysis, right?
Oh yeah.
No, I mean, part of it is that. So
that's undergraduate stuff typically. But,
okay, well, yeah, I can calculate ellipses. That's in planes. That's about as far as I can go. It'd be nice to have someone take a little bit farther.
Yeah, well, I know people who are even better than me at calculating trajectory. I haven't done that professionally in quite a while.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I do it sort of in my head for visualization purposes, but I used to actually be the manager of a mission design group.
Well, I just need something someone will trust. I have no credibility in that realm, so I'll have to have a co-author who does.
Well, we can get you somebody.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, Goddard does have a lot of strength in that area, but you will probably have to look under the rugs and behind the curtains to find a biologist at Goddard.
Oh.
we probably have one hiding somewhere, but I'm not.
I can probably find some biologists to do my second guessing as needed.
Maybe when Ray Stanford comes into
actually, what I need is a chemist. I don't know enough about going from biomass to like hydroxyl ammonium nitrate or something like that. So
well, that I can't help you with.
Yeah, I need to find someone there.
When the chemistry starts to get messy, I run away.
Yep. Yeah, it gets even worse. I have other fantasies in the chemistry realm. I even talked to a biochemist. He said, "Get away from me. I'm not an organic chemist." I said, "Okay, sorry.
I'm not a chemist at all."
I'm kind of a very limited, chemically knowledgeable person, but not a chemist per se.
I don't even want to hear about it when I'm cooking. It's like, don't tell me about the chemistry when I'm doing.
Really? You're not sitting there saying, "Here, now I will perform the Maillard reaction."
No, I don't.
That's what I do. I announce that loudly.
Well,
I've had my experience. I actually get a kick out of when these guys start talking, and it's like, really? And I'm kind of getting what they're talking about. I mean, I'm not a chemist by any step of the means, but my God, they start. Actually, a good chemist will make it sound so simple. I mean, that's the fun thing, or the interesting thing for me. I had a guy, he was explaining, we were working, I was on a project to do a anaerobic digester, and they were explaining how it worked. They custom selected the bacteria, and they had one bacteria that was there was two bacteria, one for toluene. No, not toluene. I think there was sugars and maybe acetic acid, but the bugs did not like toluene. So we had, part of the design was to capture it before it got into the process. And the guy was explaining, yeah, we bring it in, we let it set, let whatever else decant out in this tank, and then we bring it into the digesters. The bugs go and they do their thing. They go through a kind of a mixing. They kind of mix keep the digesters mixed, and then they draw off the clean water. The methane gets collected, and we flare that off, and then they send literally clean water back to the treatment plant, or back to this, for city treatment. And I'm listening to this, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's simple. That's easy. And they were explaining all the little nuances. Yeah, if this happens, you got to do, and I'm like, wow, I kind of get into that. I like hearing people talk about.
That's how I feel when I look at the Khan Academy videos. Like, oh yes, I can prove Green's theorem. Okay, no, wait. I can prove it when I'm watching the guy do it. Yeah.
No, it just like when, there was this other guy, and this guy was like way up there, and he was explaining how the sulfur it was in a compressor. We were compressing. They were compressing the vaporized diesel fuel, and to get it up to temperatures and pressures. And one of the plants that had the same setup was using sour water, which has sulfur in it. And the sulfur way it reacted with the turbine blades it was ending up destroying the blades. And he was explaining how that interreaction, because of the temperature, there was, I don't know if it was
like gaseous sulfuric acid dissolving the metal or something.
Well, the blades were actually the reaction was changing the metal into I don't know if it was just oxidizing the blades, or it sounded like it was like the blades were actually being coated, where like almost I want to say like being what is it, like electroplated. That type of deal. And
yes, unclean gas in a turbine system is it's not as bad as unclean gas in a piston system, but it's pretty bad.
Yeah, because this was a what was it? It was like a 10,000 horsepower. I forget how much they pushed through that. And this is to part of a hydrotreater, low sulfur diesel hydrotreater. And I mean, yeah, when the guy was explaining this, I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's neat. I don't even understand that. That's my thing.
The question is how many when you're hydrotreating your biofuel, how many dollars per gallon equivalent does that increase the price? Biofuels are still about $8 a gallon wholesale, with the most optimistic assumption.
Yeah.
And gas, I mean biogas, that's what we're doing at the port. But if you take all the enthalpy out of those carbon-carbon bonds and just turn it into biogas, you're wasting half your potential net energy. So it's like, yeah, it's easy to do, but geez, you're blowing your wad here.
Yeah.
On the other hand, how do you make anything else? Well, every step is expensive. Any step doubles your cost, right? It's like, fuck. And yet we have this huge problem, so someone has to pay for it. God, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Struggle along. Hopefully, a rich investor. So the space paper that I just talked to Paul about is it's my job application to Elon Musk, basically. You want to be green, Elon? Let's fuel your rockets with green propellant. How about that?
Can't get it. Yeah.
You've got plenty of money. We can build 1,000 acres. I could do it with 1,000 acres of algae easily.
I mean, I keep seeing. I try to
Oh,
follow.
1,000 acres is a small farm in the Midwest.
Yes, 1,000 acres is about the smallest farm that's possibly productive. For like a family farm.
Yeah.
It has to be at least 1,000 acres, and the margins are so low. I mean that's why it has to be so big. I mean,
It's more like 3,000 or 4,000 is typical, I think.
probably more, but I mean it's the minimum. It's in the thousands for sure. More than a section.
Yeah.
And then there's we can co-digest with shit, pig shit, cow shit. We just need a big, high-scale demonstration project. But a farmer is not going to bet the farm on us.
No. You're going to need Jeff Bezos, or
we need big grants to do a big-scale system for someone.
Well, there is money out there. You just have to pull enough of it towards you.
Yep. Well, the paper. Without the paper, there's not. I can't tell anybody anything. It's got to be out there. So that's what I'm working on, step by step.
Well, that first step, have a well documented process.
Yep.
And then 1,000 acres should. There's a lot of Iowa farm boys who own 1,000 acres. So.
Yes, we're in touch with some of them, but it's slow. I mean, it's like the system we're working on now is a prototype for a system that won't even be built for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how long it takes. They allocate their resources years in advance.
I think Jimmy Carter owns 1,000 acres. Maybe you can get a hold of him.
Well, I mean, he just built a huge solar farm for his town, right? So,
yeah.
No, there's plenty of people. What's his name? He owns a big island in Hawaii. He bought all the Dole pineapple property. Ellison, Oracle, the Oracle guy. Larry Ellison.
Okay.
So he owns one of the islands, one of the Hawaiian islands. And he's claimed that he's going to use it as a demo for sustainable farming. So he's on the list.
Oh, okay.
Other people are on the list. But until the paper comes out, I've got nothing. So once the paper comes out, then I can start shopping it around. That's the plan.
Okay. Well, good. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. No one's paying me to do this. So hopefully I can turn it into a job. Otherwise, I'll have to do shitty crap for assholes to make crap for other assholes.
Oh, you're going to the White House.
Well, if I have to, you got to have a job.
You can give press briefings. All right. Well, I think I'm gonna.
Yeah, I was just gonna say goodbye. It's been a pleasure. Maybe I'll see you all in a month or 2 or 3 or 4.
Okay. Cool.
It's been great. Thanks for doing this, Paul. You're a good enthusiast.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
But later.